The police were chasing a ghost that didn't even exist, in the pouring rain, holding the photograph of a dead man. In that rain-slicked night known as the perfect play, it wasn't just the massive weight of 300 million yen that vanished. It was also the life of a 19-year-old son of a police officer, silenced by the organization. In those 3 minutes, who was the actor? And who was the director?
Welcome back to Glitch Frequency. Today we discuss the Showa 300 million yen robbery.
We're taking you back to that afternoon of torrential rain to dismantle the massive dark curtain woven from police lies, the death of a youth, and vanished cash.
And we are really just dropping you straight into the center of a paradox today. It's one that has, completely baffled investigators for over half a century.
Right.
Like if you were sitting there listening to this and thinking that modern police work with unlimited resources always gets its man, well, this deep dive is going to completely dismantle that assumption.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are looking at a heist that took exactly 3 minutes to pull off. 3 minutes. And in response to that, the Japanese state deployed this staggering number of police officers. It was 170,000 officers.
Yeah, 170,000. It's almost hard to comprehend.
It really is. And they poured 900 million yen into the investigation. Plus, the culprit left behind, what was it, 124 distinct pieces of physical evidence.
Exactly, 124 items.
Yet the case remains officially unsolved today. So our mission for this deep dive is to basically figure out how a bureaucratic machine of that massive scale could be so effortlessly outmaneuvered by essentially a single ghost in a white helmet.
Right, and to really grasp the mechanics of this failure, you sort of have to immerse yourself in the physical reality of that day, December 10th, 1968.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So the atmosphere itself felt oppressive. You have to imagine Tokyo is just being battered by this freezing torrential downpour.
Miserable weather.
Completely miserable. Visibility is practically zero. And creeping along the towering monolithic concrete walls of the Fuchu prison is this black Nissan Cedric transport car.
Right, belonging to the Neon Shintaku Bank.
Yes. And inside that car, you have 4 bank employees sitting on top of 3 heavy duralumin trunks.
And we really need to emphasize what is inside those trunks for you. It's 294,307,500 yen in physical cash.
Which is an astronomical figure.
It's massive. In the context of 1968 Japan, that is an absolute fortune. We're talking roughly 2 to 3 billion yen in today's money. It isn't just a heavy bag of cash.
Yeah, no.
This represents the entire liquid winter bonus allocation for 4,525 workers at a nearby Toshiba factory.
Right.
So it's literally a system-shaking amount of currency just moving through these dark streets.
Exactly. But to understand why these 4 men basically surrendered a fortune of that magnitude without a single punch being thrown, you have to look at the psychological trap that had been set up.
Ah, the setup. Because this didn't just happen out of nowhere.
Right. 4 days earlier, the branch manager of the bank received a highly specific threat letter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was pieced together from magazine clippings, very classic, but it demanded cash and explicitly threatened to blow up his house.
Which is terrifying.
Completely, and the bank refused to comply, obviously, but the psychological damage was already done. The employees in that Nissan Cedric were essentially sitting on a powder keg of their own terror.
I can imagine every shadow in the rain probably looked like a threat to them.
Precisely. Their adrenaline is already redlining.
Mm-hmm.
So they are crawling through this downpour, and suddenly a white police motorcycle pulls up behind them.
Right.
Lights are cutting through the rain.
Right.
The rider is in a leather jacket and a white helmet, and he aggressively signals them to pull over.
And, I mean, if you're a bank employee in 1968 Japan, you absolutely do not question state authority.
Never. The hierarchy is absolute. You pull over immediately.
Right.
So the officer rushes up to the driver's window and he shouts, your branch manager's house was just blown up. We have intel that a bomb might be planted under your car, too. Get out. I need to check.
Oh, wow. So it's this brilliant piece of psychological manipulation.
Exactly.
He doesn't pull a weapon. He weaponizes their pre-existing anxiety.
Yeah.
He takes that threat letter from 4 days ago and makes it a physical, immediate reality for them right in that moment.
Yeah, and he does it perfectly. So the officer crawls under the chassis of the Nissan. And a few seconds later, this intense smoke starts billowing out from underneath the car.
Oh, man.
He scrambles out, screaming, "It's a bomb! It's going to blow! Run!"
And of course they run. I mean, anyone would.
Exactly. They sprint for their lives. They're covering their ears, bracing for a shockwave that just never comes.
Right.
Instead of an explosion, they hear the roar of their own Nissan Cedric's engine starting up. They turn around just in time to see this heroic police officer casually driving away with their $3 million payload.
It's just a flawless 3-minute kabuki performance. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a masterclass in misdirection.
Truly.
It's like a magic trick where the police uniform itself acts as the magician's wand. He used, what, a modified smoke flare?
Yeah, a modified flare that mimics smoking dynamite.
And combined with the public's implicit obedience to authority, he pulls off the perfect crime.
It was perfect in its execution, certainly. But this is where the sheer scale of the police failure really comes into focus. Because he didn't just vanish cleanly.
Right, he left all that stuff behind.
Exactly. He left a mountain of evidence, his fake police motorcycle, a megaphone, his hat, his jacket. Over the course of his getaway route, he abandoned those 124 distinct physical items we mentioned.
Which, logically speaking, should be an investigator's dream scenario, right? I mean, if you leave 124 pieces of yourself behind, you are giving the authorities a map straight to your front door.
You would think so.
So how is it possible that 170,000 police officers failed to catch him by dinner time?
Well, the abundance of evidence was actually an illusion. It was a curse. It crippled the investigation because you have to factor in the specific era of Japan's post-war economic boom.
Okay, right.
This was the golden age of mass production. Every single item he left behind was a completely untraceable, off-the-shelf good.
Wow, so there's nothing unique to track.
Nothing. I mean, the Japanese forensic science teams were incredibly meticulous. They actually found a tiny 3-millimeter scrap of newspaper wedged into the megaphone to stop it from rattling.
3 millimeters? That's insane.
They placed it under a microscope and traced it to a highly specific December 6th edition of the Sankei newspaper, delivered to a tiny local area. They even analyzed soil from an abandoned getaway Corolla and matched it perfectly to a forest 4 kilometers away.
Okay, so they essentially have his geographic footprint. They know his neighborhood, they know his driving routes, they know what newspaper he reads.
Yes.
They are practically breathing down his neck. So where's the disconnect?
The disconnect was the face of the suspect. The physical items were useless without a target, so the police leaned entirely on a composite sketch of the young man in the white helmet.
Oh, the famous sketch.
Yeah, you've likely seen it. It became one of the most famous images in Japanese history, plastered across every train station, every police precinct, and every television broadcast in the country.
Right, it defined the entire nationwide manhunt. But okay, let's unpack this for a second, because if you look at the historical records, the realization of what that image actually was is just staggering.
That's unbelievable.
It wasn't a sketch at all.
No.
It was a photograph, a direct photograph of a youth named Hiroshi Suzuki. And Suzuki had been dead for 1.5 years before the heist even happened.
Yes.
He was crushed under a collapsed concrete wall at a construction site back in April 1967.
Right, and the deception was so profound that Suzuki's own sister saw the composite on the evening news and remarked that whoever this criminal was, he looked terrifyingly like her deceased brother.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The police forensic artist eventually confessed that his superiors practically forced him to take Suzuki's photograph, take it into the darkroom, and physically manipulate it just enough to pass it off as a composite sketch of a living suspect.
Okay, wait. If you pause and think about the logistics of that decision, it is deeply, deeply unsettling.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't accidentally crowdsource the hunt for a literal ghost. Why on earth would the state machinery use a dead man's face to mislead 100 million citizens? I mean, was it sheer incompetence, or were they trying to shield a true insider?
It's the latter. And that brings us to the erased suspect, a figure identified in the police files only as Boy S.
Boy, yes.
Yeah, Boy S was 19 years old. He was the leader of a local delinquent group. But the crucial detail, the detail that totally paralyzed the investigation headquarters, was his parentage.
Right.
His father happened to be a high-ranking, active-duty motorcycle police officer.
See, which instantly connects every logical dot of the heist.
It really does.
The flawless execution, the authoritative command of the bank employees, the exact modifications to the fake police motorcycle. Like, if you grow up eating breakfast across the table from a motorcycle cop, you absorb their operational protocols by osmosis.
Exactly. You know how they dress, you know how they speak, how they command a scene. And the investigative team certainly saw that connection.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Just 5 days after the crime, they brought in the 4 terrified bank employees from the Nissan Cedric. They placed a lineup of 56 photographs in front of them.
Okay.
And without hesitation, all 4 employees pointed directly at the face of Boy S.
Wow. So they have the means, they have the operational knowledge, and they have 4 unshakable eyewitness identifications.
Yep.
I mean, in any normal jurisdiction, that is case closed. You make the arrest.
You do, but you have to view this through the lens of 1968.
Ah, right, the context.
Yeah, the socio-political climate was incredibly volatile. This was the era of massive student protests. In Tokyo, riot police were clashing violently with students in the streets on a daily basis.
Right.
The institutional and moral authority of the Japanese police force was basically hanging by a thread. So if the press broke the story that the greatest thief in the nation's history was the son of the very people meant to protect the public.
Public trust would just completely evaporate. The system would shatter.
Exactly. So the police are staring down the barrel of a public relations apocalypse. They prepare to bring Boy S in for a highly sensitive interrogation. But before he ever sets foot in an interrogation room, the entire narrative violently derails.
Because he dies.
Right. Just 120 hours after the heist, Boy S is found dead in his bedroom from potassium cyanide poisoning.
It's just wild. And the scene of his death is, one of the most contested elements of this entire history.
Oh, without a doubt.
It functions as this classic locked room mystery. Like, the bottle of cyanide was found wrapped in a piece of newspaper, but when forensics dusted that bottle and that newspaper wrapper, they found absolutely zero fingerprints belonging to Boy S.
Which completely defies basic physical logic.
Totally. If a 19-year-old boy decides to take his own life by drinking poison, his fingerprints have to be on the delivery mechanism. You cannot unwrap a bottle and pour a lethal dose without leaving a trace.
Right.
But they did find fingerprints on that newspaper wrapper. The only prints recovered belonged to his father, the active duty police officer.
Yeah, it's chilling. And furthermore, investigators found 2 water glasses in the room, not 1. And neighbors even reported hearing a violent shouting argument coming from the house shortly before his death.
When you lay those facts out objectively, the missing fingerprints, the father's prints, the 2 glasses, the argument, it forces a pretty horrifying deduction.
It does.
Was this a suicide, or are we looking at an internal execution? Did an active duty officer hand his own son a lethal dose of cyanide, or did the police organization orchestrate his death to permanently neutralize the threat to their reputation?
And we have to look at what happened right after. Following his death, the police organization moved with staggering speed.
Oh, I bet.
They officially cleared Boy S of any involvement in the heist and immediately pivoted the entire nation's attention back to that fabricated composite sketch of the dead man.
So they actively chose to chase a ghost to avoid looking at the corpse in their own ranks.
Essentially, yes.
But wait, let's look at how they justified clearing him, because it's completely flawed.
Yeah, it is.
The famous detective handling the case, Hachibe Haratsuka, he cleared Boy S because S was supposedly in a juvenile facility when the earlier test threat letters were mailed out.
Right.
Doesn't an airtight alibi mean he's innocent?
Well, it proves he didn't physically walk to a mailbox and drop the letters in, sure.
Yeah.
But Detective Haratsuka was notoriously stubborn, and he was fiercely committed to a lone wolf theory.
Ah, okay.
He fundamentally believed that criminals always betray each other over money, so a flawless, silent crime had to be the work of one solitary genius. He refused to entertain the idea of accomplices.
Even with all the evidence.
Yeah. Actually, when a journalist later challenged him on this, suggesting multiple suspect theory, Haratsuka became so enraged, he threw a heavy glass ashtray at the reporter's head.
Are you serious?
Wow, yeah. His commitment to the lone wolf theory completely blinded him to the reality of who Boy S actually was, because he wasn't a solitary mastermind. He was part of the Tachikawa gang.
Right, the delinquent network.
Yes. And the historical records show this gang had deep, complex ties to the local U.S. military base. That is a critical detail, because an American military base represents a massive jurisdictional blind spot for the Japanese police. They can't just walk in and start executing search warrants.
Exactly. So if you apply the accomplice theory, the alibi shatters. Boy S could easily have been the muscle, the guy executing the heist, while his friends managed the logistics and mailed the letters while he was locked up.
Exactly, to throw off the timeline.
And the behavior of his family and friends immediately following his death practically screams conspiracy.
Oh, 100%.
Like, Boy S dies, and what do his parents do? They don't preserve his memory. Immediately after his death, they use a crematorium to burn all of his address books, his contact lists, his photos.
Everything.
They permanently erased his network. It's like enforcing a gag order of silence, a silent contract written in ash.
The silence held? Definitely. But the money started to move.
The money always moves.
Let's look at one of his close associates in the Tachikawa gang. A 19-year-old part-time painter referred to in the files as Boy A, or Yoneyama.
Okay.
In the months following the death of Boy S, this part-time painter suddenly exhibits a massive influx of totally unexplained wealth.
Surprise, surprise.
Right. He opens a cafe, buys luxury sports cars, establishes a real estate company, and starts moving tens of millions of yen.
Yeah, a 19-year-old painter does not organically generate real estate capital overnight.
No, he doesn't.
And conspicuously, right before the statute of limitations expired, he eventually fled to Hawaii. But wait, if you're tracking the logic here, how did they spend the money if the serial numbers were recorded by the bank?
Yeah. Well, that is the most brilliant and frankly the coldest reality of the entire heist. The police did not have all the serial numbers.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Out of the 294 million yen stolen from the transport car, only 1 million yen was bundled in 500 yen notes that actually had recorded serial numbers.
Are you kidding me?
The remaining 293 million yen was entirely clean. It was totally untraceable currency.
Oh my God. So if you are the gang sitting on that haul, you realize immediately that you have a massive fortune, but just a tiny fraction of it is radioactive.
Exactly. So what do you do?
Well, the records mention that chilling detail right before Boy S died. Investigators found a massive, unexplained pile of white ash burning behind his house.
Right.
And it was far too much volume for normal household garbage, and the ash was distinctly white, which is characteristic of burned paper currency.
Did they burn the mark money?
The implication is profound, but yes, they didn't even try to launder the marked bills. They isolated the 1 million yen in recorded 500 yen notes, and they simply set it on fire. It is ruthless financial logic. It's like stealing a luxury car, finding a GPS tracker under the dashboard, and instead of trying to reprogram it, you just cut it out and throw it in a fire to keep the car.
It's exactly like that. They sacrificed a tiny, dangerous fraction of the loot to guarantee they could safely spend the untraceable 293 million yen.
Wow.
And meanwhile, the police spent 7 years waiting for one of those marked 500 yen notes to surface in the Japanese economy, completely unaware they were waiting for something that had already been reduced to white ash in a backyard fire.
So they were outmaneuvered structurally, psychologically, and financially.
Completely.
But you know, what is truly fascinating is how the Japanese public actually perceived the event as all this was unfolding.
Yeah, the public reaction was really interesting.
Because despite the dark reality of a covered-up death and burned evidence, the public actually romanticized the thief. They viewed him as this heroic outlaw.
Right, because from the public's perspective, it looked like a victimless crime.
Exactly. The thief didn't use a gun. He didn't physically injure anyone during the heist. The bank's loss was fully covered by foreign insurance companies.
Right, the insurance paid out.
And most importantly, those 4,525 Toshiba factory workers got their winter bonuses the very next day anyway.
Yep. So to the public, a clever underdog had simply humiliated the massive, faceless state machinery. And the cultural impact of that humiliation was huge.
Yeah, it ended an era, didn't it?
It did. This single crime forced Japan to abandon the era of physical cash salary payments. The sheer liability of moving billions of yen through the streets in trunks was suddenly undeniable.
Right.
So it basically forced the whole country to transition to direct bank transfers.
So a ghost in a white helmet fundamentally rewired the national economy and then simply vanished.
Yeah. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, you know, the true victim here wasn't the bank or the insurance company. The victim was the truth itself. A 19-year-old boy was erased by the state machinery to protect its own image. It makes you wonder, what other ghosts are powerful institutions actively chasing today, just to keep us from looking at the men behind the curtain?
In 1975, the statute of limitations for this case officially expired. Of those vanished yen serial numbers, not a single one has surfaced in the market for over half a century. Perhaps they turned to ash long ago, or perhaps they are hidden at the bottom of a safe belonging to someone in the high echelons of power.
The most terrifying part of the 300 million yen case isn't where the money went. It's that when a powerful system wants to hide the truth, it can create a ghost out of thin air or effortlessly erase a living person from existence.
We like to think we live in a world of law and truth. But in that torrential rain, everyone was just a nameless extra on a backdrop. Frequency tuning ends here. See you next episode.